Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Steve and Chris here. Thanks for listening to episode 8 of the Steve and the Hood Present Boston Sports Podcast. Got a special guest with us tonight, Red Sox legend Keith Foulke. First of all, thanks for coming on with us tonight, Keith. How's everything going?
It's going great, and thanks for calling me a legend. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, man. It's quite an honor for Chris and myself.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt about
it. So start off, what have you been up to these days?
These days, I work with the player development side of the Red Sox down in the minor leagues. I am a bullpen advisor, which basically means that I travel around to the top 3 levels of the bullpen, or of the minor league affiliates, Pawtucket, Portland, and Salem, Virginia, working with the minor league guys.
Nice. So we have some good relievers coming up in the system to keep an eye on?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate, over the last year. You get guys like Austin Maddox, Ben Taylor. There's, Heath Hembry was in the system for a while. He's finally up there. There's definitely a few more in the works. But we definitely have a bullpen that can carry us for the next number of years.
Nice. So I always like to hear good prospects coming up in the system.
Yeah, and fortunately, I didn't spend a very long time in the minor leagues, but now in the last 2 years I've been in this position. It really is fun to watch a lot of the young guys. I was fortunate enough to see Benintendi last year, and there's Devers this year, both basically making the jump from Portland to the big leagues, although Devers spent a real short time in Pawtucket. But watching these guys, you see them in these smaller ballparks where it's a little more fan friendly and stuff, and all of a sudden you turn on the TV and there they are, just doing big things.
Nice. How much of a jump do you think it is from Double-A right to the pros? Is there like a huge gap between Double-A and Triple-A?
I would not say there is much of a gap between Double-A and Triple-A. Obviously, between Double-A and the big leagues, there is a gap. It's kind of funny to say that a lot of it has to do on the individuals. Sometimes guys get to the big leagues, they get overwhelmed, and and it takes them a couple times up and down, from the major leagues to the minor leagues to be able to figure it out, to be able to go out there and actually calm down so they can perform. And that's what makes, like Benintendi and Devers so special, is they made that jump, and it's like they've been there for 5 years. They're just not overwhelmed. They're able to, continue. They're able to continue what they were doing in the minor leagues. And, it's just part of that good young nucleus that we have in Boston.
Right. No, it's good to see you in the community doing a lot of work, and what you did for the Hurricane Irma was pretty cool. That was definitely pretty classy of you.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, back when you're playing, you try and do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I did a lot of stuff with the foster kids, trying to get them out to the ball game and give them something positive to look at. But one thing about being an athlete or an actor or somebody of high profile in New England is the city is the New England region is such a tight knit, sports loving region that it's the athletes have a big responsibility to give back to the community that supports them, gives them a loving home and and support day in and day out. So being able to give back and help raise a little money for for the Red Cross and the hurricane victims, and we do a lot of things with the children's hospitals and and MGH and all that. There's charities all over the board, but anytime I can lend my name or get out there and help, I'm all for it.
Nice. Yeah, we definitely love our athletes in New England for sure. We're hard, but we're fair. I guess that's the way I would put it.
Yeah, you're definitely hardcore. I wouldn't always say you're fair.
Well, yeah, we we can be a little bit rambunctious at times, but we got passion at least.
That's what it is, and even I myself, years ago, it's sometimes it's hard to separate the passion from the harshness, but obviously I'm not a player anymore, so it's easier to understand that passion does run deep here.
Definitely. You want to add anything, Steve? You want to jump right to the state of the Sox as is?
Are you taking notes? What are you doing? You're awful quiet.
Yeah, no kidding.
So was this the hardest market you played in as a player?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But it's just like we just talked about. It's that passion that makes New England such a avid sports town. We won't accept failure or mediocrity in any sport. And when you have the top four, the big four, major sports go out and have all won in the last 10, 12 years, that's what this region demands. The other place I played was Frisco for a very short time. I don't really remember anything about that, but I played for the White Sox, which is also kind of the second fiddle in town. And then when I went back out to play in Oakland, Oakland's Oakland. They don't care a whole lot. So I virtually played in 3 small markets. So they were very easy. You went and did your job. You went home. Nobody ever recognized you. Nobody ever bothered you. Nobody talked to you. Which was good. But then sometimes you want to have a little status, and that's one thing that when you come play in Boston, you get that status.
When you first came to Boston, was it a tough transition for you?
Living in the city was definitely a little bit of a transition. But, I've been coming here since 1997, and, when I would come here as a visiting player, I would walk around. I went out and I did things in the city to, enjoy the culture and get to know the people. So when I came to, actually as a hometown, it wasn't that big of a transition, especially when you're doing well, it's an easy transition. When you're not doing so well, that's a different story. Sometimes you have to make a few adjustments in your daily routine.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, we're just fans, so we kind of just see the outside where you're a former player. You live that life, so you know way more of the intimate details than we do. It's got to be crazy, the amount of pressure playing in the city.
Yeah, there's times when, like I said, when you're doing well, I mean, everybody smiles and high fives,
Right.
But, eventually everybody learns where you live, and you're trying to walk to dinner with your family, your kids, whatever, and everybody's got an opinion on, what you need to do to fix this, what the team needs to do to win more, what the manager needs to do, and it's like, after a while, it's like it gets overwhelming, and you'd be sitting there trying to have a meal, and everybody wants to come up and talk to you, and it's like, I'm just trying to eat a steak. Can I get 15 minutes to myself, please?
Right.
Exactly.
But that's you get used to it, and you adjust.
You said.
Yeah. So what do you think of this year's Red Sox team?
Well, that's a pretty broad question, but I mean, obviously, we're not. Nowadays, I watch as a fan.
Yeah.
I work with the guys in the minor leagues, but when it comes to what I like to call the 4A ball club here in Boston, I'm a fan. So I watch the game as a fan. I holler and I bitch as a fan. Times you think they have what it takes to do it. Then there's times you're like, oh my gosh, you start looking towards next year. But they have the talent. It's going to come down to, I think, the experience and through the last. I think with tonight we have 18 games left. Is can they win the games they're supposed to win? Come down. We have the Astros the last 4 games of the year, and you start lining up where possibility of having to play Cleveland again. It's like I think we need to play a little bit better if we're going to compete and go deep into the playoffs.
Cleveland is just a lethal team, and to be frank, they scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
They line up so well with Boston, it's crazy.
Well, the way they're playing right now, they scare the hell out of everybody on the
Right.
planet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, laws of physics says they're going to lose, but boy, I wouldn't want to go against those guys in the regular postseason.
Yeah, it's funny. I really don't know much about their team. I know a little bit about Terry Francona, and when he gets a group of guys who believe in themselves and the organization is behind them, they get out there, they play their style of ball, and they are proving that they have what it takes to make some serious noise.
It's like, for me, it's clearly down to Kluber and Sale for the Cy Young, and I don't know. Is Kluber like the slight favorite at this point? It's pretty close, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very close. It might turn out to be a tale of two halves. Like I said, I don't see Cleveland a whole lot. I don't pay attention to what Kluber's doing, but I think when it comes down to it, if one team has more momentum, and it's I think the edge might go to that guy if the numbers are are close. Strikeouts are one thing, but when it comes to all the other numbers, those other numbers are just as impressive.
Seeing what Sale's done this year compared to those years with Pedro, it's crazy. Pedro, to me, is the best starting pitcher of my life, easily. No doubt about it. I mean, he was money on the mound.
I agree 100%. And I was fortunate enough to be in the other dugout when Pedro was in his heyday, and not only did Pedro have, I don't want to say Sale type stuff, but that impressive put away type stuff. Pedro also pitched mean. He didn't take any shit when he was on the mound, and if he didn't like what you're doing, he had the ability to throw a high 90s fastball up under your chin, not to hit you, but to get your attention. And if the first one didn't get your attention, he'd do it again. Then he'd come back with filthy breaking ball pitches to make you look foolish, and he'd tell you to go sit down. That's
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to watch. It was impressive to be a teammate. And the game has changed a little bit, so I don't think Sale has the ability to do it. I just don't think baseball allows that as much anymore.
Right.
Yeah, they definitely seem to shy away from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it seems that way. Incredible.
Yeah, so let's go jump ahead and jump up into the Pats a little bit. Obviously, last week's game didn't go as any of us had hoped or planned, but what do you think of the Patriots this year, Keith?
I mean, obviously, I can't remember what the slogan is for their sixth championship, but they on paper they have everything, or they had everything they needed to, go out and dominate this year. But the good thing about sports is, it doesn't matter what the paper says, you have to go out there and win your games. Last week was a little bit of a setback. It was a tight ball game right down to the last 5 minutes or so, but they ran into a tough team, and Kansas City did what they had to do to get the job done. But the good thing about the Patriots is they don't panic. Coaching staff, Belichick and Brady and those guys, they don't panic. They'll regroup, they'll make the adjustments, they'll make some player adjustments, and we'll see what happens in 3 days.
Yeah, it is amazing about them how they can lose like that, and just it seems like they just completely forget about it, and on to the next game. Like you said, they usually make adjustments for the next game, and it's pretty incredible.
That's what experience teaches you. It teaches you not to panic when times get tough. Everybody is confident in how they do things, and I mean, if you're going to lose a game, week one's not a bad week to do it. And Kansas City is a good ball club. It's not like they went out and got beat by Cleveland or the Jets or whoever's on the bottom end of the spectrum now. So they go out there and you get beat by a good ball club. You tip your cap, you make the adjustments, and you move on.
Yeah, that's a good point. They were getting a lot of hype in the media, so it's not bad that they got brought back down to planet Earth in week one.
Yeah, and I mean, from the little I know about Belichick is I don't think the organization lets players get too high.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they run a very tight ship, and you know they'll lick their wounds, and you know you'll see a fresh, hungry ball club on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, still think they'll be there at the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, as a fan, I mean, we all hope so, and we don't see any reason why not. You know, it's hopefully we have a vaccine for the injury bug, and you know, we can minimize those things. You know, losing a couple key guys already, and you know, hopefully we can find replacements.
Yeah, losing Edelman, I think it's going to take him a few weeks at least to adjust to that. It's a pretty big loss.
Yeah, and I haven't really heard is you know, Amendola. I don't know if he has any lasting. I just heard it was a head injury. I don't really know what it was, and so.
Yeah, he had a concussion, and he's got a knee issue too. He didn't practice today.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the Hightower was out too today, so
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they sit him either, because if they need anyone for sure, they're going to need him for the stretch run. You lose Hightower on that defense, and things get very scary.
Yeah, that's what happened last year when they were in Denver, and he went out. The game totally changed.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, it's. I guess if it's going to happen, let's be fortunate it's happening in week 1, and you know they sit for week 2 or whatever, and you know you still get you know 12 or 13 healthy weeks out of them.
Right.
That's what we need.
Yeah, it was interesting. They just replaced the tarp at Gillette again.
Yeah, it's. I was reading about that a little bit. I guess, you know, players since camp started is, you know, it's too soft. So.
Right. Wonder if they think it had something to do with the injuries.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to speculate.
I don't know. Zach, it's hard to speculate, but it seems a little bit far-fetched to blame it on the grass.
Right.
Turf, so to speak.
Yeah.
But, you know, it says a lot about ownership if the kids are, you know, for griping, you know, they go out and make an adjustment. Like, you know, it's not like, hey, we can, you know, put red Gatorade out instead of blue. You know, that should help everything. I mean, they just ripped the entire surface out of the stadium that's only, you know, 6 months old, and completely replacing it. You know, that's a pretty big commitment by ownership, and you know, but it says, you know, hey, we will do whatever it takes to make our guys happy and, you know, help them win.
Well, Kraft is such an incredible owner. He's just top notch across the board.
Absolutely. I mean, he's you know, from, you know, my 13, 14 years here in Boston, and you know, starting to follow the Patriots and, you know, the Bruins and Sox and all that. But I mean, he definitely is, you know, is a top notch owner, and you know, it shows how they're able to keep the players that they need here. You know, you get Edelman that restructures his deal, you know, and Brady is one of the lowest paid quarterbacks in football. You know, funny enough to say that. You know, they're able to keep the coaches, or, you know, they set the coaches free and then they come back, you know, because they know how good they have it here.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible.
Been very fortunate over the years how well they've done and as successful they've been. When me and Steve first started watching back in the early 80s, I mean, they were just terrible. I mean, you could go to Foxborough and they'd hand you tickets to get in. It was that bad. And then, to me, I think everything changed when Parcells came and Bledsoe came. When the Kraft obviously saved the team from going to St. Louis. When those three got together, there was a shift, and then people started noticing the Patriots. And then obviously Belichick, Brady, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's amazing when it comes to big franchises like that, how few people it actually takes to make a change. And you know, obviously, you know, there's Kraft, and then there's, you know, the John Henway and the Fenway Group, stuff like that. Obviously, it's not just one individual, but the team of people that they bring in, you know, virtually it only takes, you know, a couple little pieces to change around a franchise, you know. And I mean, hell, I remember back in the day when they were ready to build a new Fenway, a new ballpark, you know, and then you know, Henry and his group came in, and you know, Fenway Sports Management took over, and now it's one of the oldest stadiums, and I love it. It's beautiful. The renovations they've done and it showed because guys want to come play here.
Well, there's definitely a mystique to Fenway Park. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so moving on to the Bruins a little bit, David Pastrnak still kind of holding out. Well, he came out tonight where he's not even in the States right now. He wants a new deal before he even shows up to camp. It's kind of a tough situation for both sides. Hopefully Pastrnak gets signed soon. If not, and fans, it's tough to say, I guess, which way they're going to go. Are they going to go with ownership for not giving them the big money? Or are they, going to be mad at the owners for, hey, here we go again, not paying up when one of the young guys is due?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, is he under contract now, or is he due a new contract?
He's restricted. He's a restricted free agent at the moment.
Yeah, see, that's one of those things where, sports can get nasty like this.
Yeah.
I know hockey players don't get their due, in my opinion. They, as highly skilled as they are, and still being probably the lowest paid, or not probably, they are the lowest paid athletes out of the Big Four. They deserve their money, but, it comes a point that you have a chance to make your money, and sometimes you just got to go out there and prove that you're right, and not sit back and, kind of whine about it. But, obviously I'm a Bruin fan, and, I'd love to see them come together and get something figured out, because I think they start camp next week.
Tomorrow, actually, they're in camp.
Also, it is tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, it'd be nice for them to be able to come to some sort of agreement. Makes everybody happy. Go out and do big things, and if you go out and you help your team win, and you go deep into the playoffs, and that's when the money follows.
Do you have any specific player on the Bruins that you like say your favorite player on the team?
I'm a big David Krejci fan.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It'd be nice to see him, have a bounce back year. I'm glad to see him that he came back this year. But like to see him have a big bounce back year, be free of injuries, and go out there and throw up some points.
Definitely need that. And with him, if you get Pastor and Cam as wing and the new rookie there, Bjork, that's a pretty good front line right there with all the indications of good Bork's going to be.
Yeah.
The youth game is definitely on.
Yeah, and if you get Big Chara, if he can find a little form and get back in there and be solid on defense and help lead that team, it's hockey season is always a great time for me.
Oh, I love hockey. Are you into any college hockey at all?
Starting to be a little bit more. Since I spend a little more time up here during the fall and the winter, I'm definitely going to take in some college hockey this year.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a UNH guy. A lot of my family's gone to UNH, so that's what I go for.
It's funny. I don't know if you've ever heard this about me, but I started following UNH football a number of years back when they were in the playoffs.
Oh, really?
When I first got on Twitter. And so I go to a couple games a year, for football, and I'm going, this will be my third homecoming for football this, 2 weeks.
Oh, no kidding.
But
Wow.
That's I am excited about going up there and catching some hockey games. I heard they're pretty intense, and
oh yeah.
So
Millie's been the coach for good Lord, probably close to 30 years now.
Yeah.
He's a good dude, though. I've met him personally. My uncle's works in the with them directly, not the hockey team, but he knows them on a personal level. So I've had dinner with you, Millie, before. He's a really cool dude.
Well, perfect. We'll have to figure out a time and get up there and catch a game.
Yeah, definitely.
I just moved into my new apartment with my girl, and we're at Avalon North Station, so we're right above North Station. So it's a quick train trip, just to buzz up there real quick.
Wow.
No, that'd be great. Definitely. I would definitely love to go to a game with you. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we can work that out.
Sure, definitely.
Cool. Yeah, so we got some questions from our Facebook group. First one's from Jessica Snee. When that grounder was headed your way.
That's from Junior. That's Junior.
No, okay. My bad. Junior Ponce, what was going through your mind when that grounder was headed your way to close out the 04 World Series?
It's kind of funny. My response 10 years ago is different than mine now. When people ask me that question now, my response is a question back to them. I was like, what do you think it felt like? And they're like, I imagine it was, the best feeling ever. And I'm like, that's exactly what it was. Yeah. It was one of the best feelings that a human could ever experience. And I'm sure you can tell by my face after it was over, it was such a huge relief. It worked basically my entire life to get to a level and to be able to do it in Boston, in New England, after the long history of letdowns and stuff. It was literally a dream come true. It was a once-in-a-lifetime event. And, obviously I'm still accepted in Boston because of that year.
Oh, me as a sports fan, that was the greatest moment of my life, seeing that happen.
It was one of the greatest sports memories of eternity.
There's no doubt about that.
Cinderella story, how we got there, and the Cubs get their due because they won last year. But fortunately enough for us is we tried to throw it away, but we recovered.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit cooler.
Now, on a side note, you guys also got down to the Yankees 03. Was there ever a time when you guys were doubting that, I don't know, maybe they really got our number this time, or was it just something we just gotta go in and buy in and then let's see what happens?
No, you get your ass handed to you for 3 straight days. Yeah, it's tough, and there's a point where you sit down and you you kind of dwell on it a little bit, but being professional athletes, it comes a point where the past, what we like to call, you close the yearbook. You turn the page and you move on. And we got together, and Kevin Millar is kind of our ringleader. He just kind of started hollering a bunch of stuff, and you forget about the past and you move on. You go out there, and it's one of two things is going to happen. You're going to lose, and you're going to go home and you're going to start your winter, which isn't a bad thing. Or you're going to win, and you're going to come back and play again. So it's like, okay, pressure's off. We're done. We're done being worried. All right, let's go out and have fun, play the ball we can play. You win 1, and you win 2. After you win 2, it's like, oh man, you kind of see it starting to change a little bit. You go out there and win the 3rd game, and it's all tied up, and Johnny Damon goes out and does big things in Game 7, and that game was really never close.
All right.
No, thank God.
Yeah.
I can't just imagine what Shill went through in Game 6 with that ankle of his. On God, crazy stuff.
That's how he was. He was a hard-nosed player. He was an old-school pitcher.
Right.
And he went out there and they went in there and they stitched that thing up before the game. Threw a Band-Aid on it and pat the guy on the ass. All right, go get him.
I know you've heard this probably a million times in your life since then, but personally, I cannot thank that 04 team enough what you guys did bringing that title home. That really hit home for all of us, fans. Generations have waited forever for that moment to happen. I got to thank you again for that. That was just a really cool moment, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that was our pleasure, and like you said, we've heard it a million times, but it never gets old. I will accept every piece of gratitude that people want to hand to us, and I love hearing the stories of mothers and fathers and grandparents, and after the it was over, and people going to the cemeteries and spending time with their loved ones, and they're basically having beers with their dad in the cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, those are great stories. It still makes me emotional to talk about it. But those are good times, and like I said, I was blessed to be part of that.
Unreal.
Yeah, I think everyone, myself included, remembers where we were when that final out was recorded. So, yeah, thanks again.
Yeah. Funny little side note to that. People, there's times that I'll be in a group of people and they won't know who I was, and they'll see something on that World Series, and the guy will kind of they give you that little elbow and say, "Ha, I remember where I was at when that happened to you," and I'm like. Yeah, I remember exactly where I was too.
Wow, that's messed up.
Wow.
Well, they brought you in 2004 after the disaster that was 2003, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I thought so. Thank God. I mean, that was just great little. I don't even want to get into that whole situation. We'll just move on.
Yeah, let's just leave the chapter as it is and move on.
Second question from Jessica Snee. How was it playing with Kevin Millar? Can you tell us a funny story?
Playing with Kevin was always entertaining. He really was one of the pieces of the skeleton that really held us up. It's when you have a locker room full of men, full of athletes, a lot of times you'll get different personalities. Guys will, there's smart guys, there's dumb guys, there's outgoing guys, and then there's guys that like to sit in their locker. But when you have a mix of those guys that can still come together for a common goal, it's important. And having Millar is one of those guys that could keep everybody laughing, keeps the the tension when everybody's a little bit nervous or a little bit tight. He's the one that can come out and just blab something out that makes you laugh, kind of gets you to move on from something, to kind of realize that what you're doing is not that big of a deal. So he's like that your big brother's cool friend, that's just not afraid to say what needs to be said sometimes.
Well, one thing that gets overlooked with Millar, especially in that Game 4 against New York, was that walk that he drew in the ninth to get Roberts on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if Kevin doesn't lay off 4 high fastballs, which he's never done before in his life, Roberts doesn't have a chance to be safe by a fingernail. So
yeah,
that was so crazy. Everyone knew he was going to steal too. That was just a remarkable play all around. Then Miller comes up, bases it up the middle, and suddenly it's a new ball game.
Yeah, and every time I see Robert steal that base, I still get nervous thinking he might be out.
Right? Is he gonna make it?
Oh my God!
I was worried he was going to get picked off because Mariano come close a couple of times.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Mo has a great pickoff move, and he's quick to the plate. And Posada, he drops the ball right on the bag, and if Roberts was a tenth slower, I mean, he's gone. See you later. Season's over.
Unreal.
Cool. Yeah, so the third question is from Matt Burke. Who was one or two guys you hated pitching against?
Edgar Martinez. Back in the day, he was a very unselfish hitter. It seemed like whatever I threw up there, he was never fooled. He was always able to get barrel on it. So yeah, he gave me fits, and after he finally retired, it seems like they replaced him with Ichiro, and then I kind of had the same issues with Ichiro. It's those guys would hit the ball to any part of the park, and they were just never seemed to be fooled on pitches.
Wow. Ichiro was just a quick dude. I mean, even dropping the bunt, what are you going to do? He's like halfway down the line before you even get off the mound.
Yeah, and he had the ability where, a lot of the Japanese guys where they can look so ugly with the body, but they have an ability to keep their hands back so they can still get the barrel to the ball,
Right.
And, when he would get fooled, he would just kind of throw the barrel, and like you said, he was like a jackrabbit getting shot out of that box.
Unreal. And Edgar, I mean, one of the greatest DHs of all time, if not the. I mean, Ortiz,
Yeah.
Edgar, Take your pick, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're in the era now where that list starts to get a little bit longer. You got Edgar and you got Ortiz. You got Frank Thomas back in the day. It's
right.
We definitely been blessed to be witnessed to a lot of great hitters.
Was there any, touching further on Matt's question, was there any batter that you came up that you just pretty much had their number from the start?
I would like to say there was a lot of them.
Right.
But it was one of those things that my style of competing is I never dwelled on the guys that I was successful against. I dwelled on the guys that I made the mistakes against. So I was really always I was always chasing perfection, but also knowing that I would never get there. So when I made mistakes, those are the things I thought about. I'm supposed to get guys out, on a regular basis. So I'm sure there are guys I dominated, but I didn't really concern myself with those.
Well, you definitely had one hell of a nasty change up on you, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that was one thing I was fortunate enough. I was able to, at a younger age, to be forced into learning how to pitch because I didn't have the big fastballs, I didn't have the big breaking balls like a lot of guys, but I had great coaches along the way that they taught me how to pitch. And as a young pitcher, especially when I was on the White Sox, I used to hang around the batting cage. I'd watch Frank Thomas hit, Albert Bell, Robin Ventura. I'd watch a lot of these, Hall of Fame type guys swing the bat. I would talk to them on what they didn't like to see as a pitcher. And, Paul Konerko and I kind of came up, in an era together in Chicago where, I used to ask him the same thing. What don't you like to see, from a pitcher? And, they would tell me it's, when pitchers are able to control the strike zone and they're able to be able to change speeds, it's a lot of things for hitters to worry about. And so I just tried to fill their brain with as many possibilities as I could. And, I tried to sneak something by him.
That's what made Pedro so dangerous too, because he could just change his speeds at will on you.
Yeah, and he had 4, outstanding pitches, so he could go at it, many different ways.
I would not want to step in the box against either one of you two, to be frank. I just know what's going to happen. It's strike 3 and it's on 3 pitches. It doesn't look like it is.
Yeah, well, not necessarily on 3 pitches. Every time one of my buddies talks about getting in the box, hitting off me, and I'm like, that's fine. Just know the first one's going to be under your chin. And, if you can stick your head back in there after that, then, you might have a shot.
Nothing like controlling it from the beginning.
Yep, you got to be able to control someone else's fear. I mean, that's what we did.
Definitely.
So the next question is from Rich Gelman. Do you guys still think you would have won the World Series if Nomar wasn't traded?
That's interesting. Honestly, it's one of those things that I've never been big into the what ifs and how could haves and all that stuff. Could we have won it? Absolutely. We will never know because obviously it didn't make it that far. But he was still a good player. We still had plenty of support on that team. That's but who's to say? There's one little thing, one little chink in the chain reaction, and you never know what would happen.
Did that really come as a shock to you guys when he got traded, or is it just kind of like business as usual?
No, I don't think it was much of a shock. Because he was battling some injuries, and there's, it comes time where you can tell that, sometimes, loved ones just need to split up for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
And, so obviously it happened. We said our goodbyes. He was a good dude, and you kind of set the bird free and let him go fly somewhere else.
Yeah, and then you had Minkiewicz come over the same time, and Roberts obviously, so it all worked out.
Yeah, we had Roberts and obviously getting Orlando Cabrera to come here and play. I mean, that's solid defensively. He just gives that little reinsurance for and he had incredible energy also, and so those he was a great piece for us.
Definitely. And I forgot about Cabrera. Yeah, he was like you said, in the field. He was like he just caught everything basically.
Yeah, I would say OC was probably the biggest piece that we added.
Yeah.
He was the guy that was in there every day. His mentality and his just his pizzazz for how he played the game was good for the clubhouse.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember when all those moves happened. It kind of had your head spinning as a fan a little bit. You're like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah, it was. Our heads were doing the same thing in the locker room. It's like, whoa, okay, another new piece. Oh, okay, all right. And you don't have that spring training and the first part of the season to get to know everybody. So it's it's one of those things where you're getting to know each other, different personalities, see how they fit in, and you're doing this on the fly. In the what's beginning to be the heart of the championship run.
As a player, are you guys really on an easy come trade deadline day?
I guess it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
I never really concerned myself with it a whole lot. But I'm sure, like Nomar, I'm sure there's lots of guys who know they are getting traded.
Yeah, it must be tough for some players. Very uneasy, I would imagine.
Yeah, I got traded. The first time when I got traded, it was, I was still young. I didn't know any different. But when I got traded in 2003 from, or before the 2003 season from Chicago to Oakland, that hurt a little bit because I'd spent 6 years in Chicago, and I enjoyed it there, and I lived there for a long time, but it turned out that going to Oakland was one of the better things that happened to me in my career.
Yeah, definitely. The last question's from Donna. How do you think Big Papi will do in the organization for the Red Sox?
Anytime you put a human being like David Ortiz in an organization, it can only have positive effects. Yeah. David is one of those rare guys that was able to have two parts to his career. Obviously getting let go by Minnesota. Pedro having a little something to do with getting him over here. But once he got over here, he blossomed. His career took off. His playing on the field is one thing, but the type of man that he was off the field and he was to his teammates and to the people of New England, you can't you can't just mold that into anybody. It has to be something that you're passionate about. And David is a great man, and having him around the organization to help out a lot of the younger players, it'll definitely be very beneficial for his experience in dealing with the Latin players, the young Latin players. It's very important for young players to have somebody that they can look up to and learn how to play the game the right way. It's good to see success in somebody who may have a background that's similar to yours, growing up. And, having David around is just going to be a positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too.
Yep. Yeah, it's I think we all kind of saw it as a foregone conclusion that he was gonna come here eventually, but like you said, hopefully he can help them young players out, help them maybe how to deal with playing in Boston with all the pressure, how to come up in the clutch, but the clutch part's probably hard to teach.
Yeah, that's hard to teach. That just comes with experience and be able to handle pressure. But sometimes it's nice to have guys like Jason, Veritek and Papi hanging around, and Pedro, because sometimes they can say things to players and have conversations with players that staff can't, that ownership can't. They can sometimes be that liaison between a player and a staff member. Because they're closer to the game. They're fresh out of the game. And that's one of the things, like even with me and dealing with my my minor league pitchers and my minor league players is I still think like a player. So sometimes when the other staff are trying to say something, they're like, oh man, he's just getting on me. He doesn't like me. And it's like, no, that's not what he's trying to say. And being able to explain different things and getting guys to understand that we're all on the same page. This coach isn't out to get you. He is trying to make you better. Don't take the cowardly way and start making excuses. He's trying to get you to work harder. And so having these special assistants and having former players around younger players can be a positive thing.
Absolutely, that's a great point.
Well, I'm still trying to get you in that booth. I got to get it running again. Keith Foulke to the Nesson booth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something been put on hold a little bit. Still working out the my minor league affiliation with player development, but obviously we're running out of time. But I'm sure I'll get to talk to them one of these days.
Well, I think you'd be excellent in the booth. I mean, you got the knowledge. You're pretty easy going by the sounds of it. Where we've been talking, so you do great in that position.
Yeah, once I got to where I got over being nervous, I'm sure I'd have a good time.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to go out there and share your experiences and stuff like that, and sometimes bring the lighter side into it. And baseball doesn't always have to be serious. Sometimes it's it's made to be fun.
Right. I mean, we all learned as kids to try to make it to be fun, and then somewhere along the line, sometimes it doesn't become so fun.
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's called growing up.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you just look at the game completely different, even though the game has changed. The stakes have changed, but still the same game you've been playing since you're 6 years old.
Good stuff.
Oh, yeah, hey, Chris, you got anything else you want to ask him or cover?
I could talk forever, but I just want to thank you again for coming on. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and hopefully we can do this again sometimes.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah, thanks for having me, Steven. Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on, and we can holler about things down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Yeah, thanks again, Keith. Where can people find you on Twitter, Chris?
Chris the Hood 420.
And
Keith, you're just Keith Foulke, right?
Yeah, on Twitter, I'm just Keith Foulke on Twitter, and I think Instagram, I guess Keith Foulke 29. That started doing that a little bit more, but yeah.
Awesome.
Follow us, and it's you never know what what we're getting into around the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can find our diehard Boston sports fan merchandise at the Postal Center in Lee, New Hampshire. So anyone who's listening, go check it out. Websites www.diehardbostonsportfans.com. My Twitter's personal ones, We Play for Titles and Diehard Boss Fans. Also check us out on Facebook. Thanks again, Keith. Hopefully, we can catch a UNH game coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, like I said, I'll be we'll be up there for homecoming on the 23rd. I think, and once hockey fires back up, we'll definitely get up there and catch those games also.
Awesome. Nice. All right, man.
All right.
Have a good night.
Be well and have fun.
You too. Thanks.
Have a good one.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.